Las Vegas, the MGM Grand Casino, 2:17 a.m., October 15, 2020. The dimly lit casino floor begins its transition from the chaos of peak gaming hours to the controlled precision of overnight financial operations. Slot machines continue their electronic symphony for the few remaining gamblers, but the real action has moved below ground to the secure vault levels where millions of dollars in daily proceeds await processing and transfer. In the underground labyrinth of counting rooms and armored storage facilities, security cameras monitor every corridor while motion sensors track the movement of authorized personnel through areas that contain more wealth than most people will see in multiple lifetimes. The system operates with military precision, built on layers of redundancy, verification procedures, and most critically, absolute trust in the people who guard it. But tonight that trust is about to be shattered by the very person sworn to protect it. It wasn't an outsider who bypassed sophisticated security systems with high-tech equipment. It wasn't a team of professional criminals with inside connections to organized crime. It was Thomas Mitchell, the man trusted to guard millions, who would turn his key and vanish with $28.6 million in cash, leaving behind only empty vault compartments and one of the most baffling disappearances in American criminal history. Before we dive into how a 15-year veteran security guard orchestrated the ultimate betrayal, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hype this video to support more incredible true crime stories. Now let's meet the man who proved that sometimes the most dangerous criminals are the ones we trust to protect us. Thomas Mitchell embodied everything that casino management looked for in overnight security personnel: reliability, discretion, and the kind of invisible competence that allowed millions of dollars to move safely through the most vulnerable hours of daily operations. At 46, he had spent 15 years building a reputation as the ideal security professional, someone who could be trusted with extraordinary responsibility while maintaining the low profile that sophisticated security operations required. Thomas's path to becoming head of overnight vault security began with military service in the Army's Military Police Corps, where he had learned the disciplines of asset protection, access control, and the kind of systematic thinking that made complex security operations possible. His transition to civilian security work had been natural, with his military background providing exactly the credentials that Las Vegas casinos valued most highly. The MGM Grand had hired Thomas in 2005 based on recommendations from previous employers and his exemplary military record. His starting position in general casino security had provided entry into the specialized world of gaming asset protection, where employee reliability was worth more than technical expertise and where 15 years of perfect performance created access to the most sensitive operations. Thomas's rise through the security hierarchy had been steady and unremarkable in the best possible way. He had never caused problems, never generated complaints, and consistently received exceptional performance reviews from supervisors who valued his professional demeanor and technical competence. His 15-year tenure included no disciplinary actions, no suspicious incidents, and a growing list of additional responsibilities that reflected management's complete confidence in his integrity. By 2020, Thomas had achieved the pinnacle of casino security careers: primary responsibility for overnight vault operations that involved supervising the transfer of hundreds of millions in daily gaming proceeds from counting rooms to secure storage facilities, surmeterings. His duties included managing armored transport coordination, overseeing junior security personnel, and maintaining the detailed documentation that tracked every dollar moving through the casino's financial infrastructure. Thomas's personal life reflected the modest financial circumstances of security work, even at the supervisory level. He lived alone in a two-bedroom apartment in Henderson, drove a reliable but aging sedan, and maintained a lifestyle that suggested careful financial management rather than any hidden sources of income. His divorce 8 years earlier had been finalized without significant assets to divide, and his relationship with his adult son was limited to occasional phone calls and holiday visits. His financial records showed steady savings accumulation, conservative investment choices, and the kind of responsible money management that casino employment background checks reviewed favorably. There was nothing in Thomas's spending patterns, debt obligations, or lifestyle choices that suggested financial desperation or the kind of pressure that might motivate employee theft. But Thomas's position provided him with something far more valuable than money: comprehensive knowledge of how the casino's security systems actually functioned versus how they appeared to work in official procedures. 15 years of daily operations had revealed discrepancies, vulnerabilities, and human factors that no amount of technology could eliminate. His role as head of overnight vault security meant that Thomas was one of fewer than a dozen people who understood the complete cash handling process from initial collection through final storage. He knew timing patterns, personnel schedules, system maintenance windows, and most critically, the specific moments when procedural gaps created opportunities for someone with appropriate access and knowledge. The trust that management, co-workers, and the entire security system placed in Thomas was absolute and earned through 15 years of flawless performance. He was the model employee whose integrity was never questioned because his character had been proven through years of handling enormous responsibility without incident. This trust would prove to be the foundation of one of the most sophisticated internal thefts in casino history. The MGM Grand's overnight vault operations represented a masterpiece of security engineering designed to protect hundreds of millions of dollars during the most vulnerable phase of casino financial processing. The system combined cutting-edge technology with human oversight procedures that should have made unauthorized access virtually impossible. The physical infrastructure included multiple underground levels connected by restricted access elevators, reinforced concrete construction that could withstand explosive attacks, and environmental systems that maintained precise temperature and humidity conditions necessary for preserving large amounts of currency over extended periods. Security measures included biometric scanners, weight-sensitive floors, motion detectors, infrared cameras, and a comprehensive network of sensors that monitored every aspect of the vault environment. Access required multiple forms of authentication, with no single individual possessing complete authorization to enter the most secure areas independently. The dual-key system that governed vault access was designed to prevent any single person from accessing stored assets without oversight from at least one additional authorized employee. The keys were distributed among senior security personnel, according to schedules that ensured multiple people were always present during any activity involving stored currency. Thomas's role as overnight security supervisor gave him one of these critical keys, along with the authority to coordinate vault access for armored transport, emergency procedures, and the routine maintenance that kept the complex systems functioning properly. His 15 years of experience had made him indispensable to operations that required both technical knowledge and absolute trustworthiness. But Thomas's comprehensive understanding of vault operations had also revealed the human vulnerabilities that sophisticated technology couldn't address. Security systems were only as reliable as the people who operated them, and those people developed routines, shortcuts, and behavioral patterns that created predictable gaps in otherwise perfect security. The insight that would eventually cost the MGM Grand nearly $29 million came from Thomas's observation of shift change procedures that occurred during the overnight hours when vault activity was typically minimal. During these transitions, when day shift supervisors departed and night shift personnel assumed responsibility, there were brief periods when oversight was reduced and individual employees might have unsupervised access to secure areas. More importantly, Thomas realized that his reputation for reliability and competence meant that other security personnel rarely questioned his activities or decisions during overnight operations. If Thomas said that procedures required modification for operational reasons, junior staff accepted his judgment without seeking additional verification or approval. The vault's security was built around the assumption that people like Thomas, 15-year veterans with perfect records, would never exploit their access for criminal purposes. The system trusted that integrity was a permanent character trait rather than a decision that might change under the right circumstances. Thomas began systematically documenting the specific vulnerabilities that could support sophisticated theft operations. Timing patterns, personnel schedules, system maintenance windows, and the behavioral routines that governed how security procedures were actually implemented rather than how they appeared in official documentation. His criminal education was disguised as professional diligence, making it invisible to management oversight that focused on external threats rather than internal vulnerabilities. For months, Thomas studied every aspect of vault operations while maintaining the perfect performance that had defined his career. By summer 2020, Thomas had developed comprehensive understanding of how the vault's security could be circumvented by someone with appropriate access, timing, and most critically, the trust of everyone around him. His transformation from guardian to potential thief was hidden beneath 15 years of exemplary service that had earned him the keys to the kingdom he was planning to rob. Thomas's preparation for the vault heist demonstrated criminal sophistication that extended far beyond opportunistic employee theft into carefully orchestrated planning that would make detection and recovery virtually impossible. His scheme required months of advanced preparation involving technical expertise, logistical coordination, and psychological manipulation of the very security systems he was trusted to protect. The first phase involved comprehensive intelligence gathering about vault operations that went beyond his official responsibilities as overnight security supervisor. Thomas began systematically documenting patterns, procedures, and vulnerabilities that could support criminal exploitation while disguising his activities as routine professional development and security system evaluation. His approach was methodical and patient, involving careful observation of junior security personnel to identify individuals who might be manipulated without realizing they were participating in criminal activities. Thomas needed accomplices who could provide cover and assistance while remaining unaware of the true scope of his criminal planning. The key insight came when Thomas realized that junior guards were often eager to avoid the unpopular overnight shifts that interfered with normal social activities and family obligations. His offer to take their shifts during particularly undesirable hours was received as generous mentorship rather than criminal preparation, creating opportunities for Thomas to operate with minimal oversight during critical operational periods. Thomas's technical preparation involved creating detailed documentation of security procedures that officially existed only in classified operational manuals. His legitimate access to these materials allowed him to study timing patterns, backup procedures, and the specific protocols that governed emergency situations when normal security measures might be temporarily modified. The most challenging component involved obtaining duplicate access credentials that would allow him to circumvent the dual-key system designed to prevent any individual from accessing vault contents independently. Thomas's solution required identifying and exploiting weaknesses in key management procedures that had developed over years of routine operations. His breakthrough came when Thomas realized that supervisory keys were occasionally left unsecured during shift changes, equipment maintenance, or emergency situations when standard procedures were temporarily suspended. These brief opportunities required careful timing and advanced planning, but they provided access to key duplication services that could create perfect replicas without triggering security alerts. Thomas's duplication efforts were conducted through criminal networks that specialized in providing sophisticated services to individuals who needed untraceable capabilities. The key duplication process required several weeks and substantial payment, but the results were indistinguishable from legitimate security credentials during routine use. The logistical preparation was equally complex, involving establishment of transportation resources, storage facilities, and disposal methods that could handle nearly $30 million in stolen cash while maintaining perfect operational security throughout extended criminal operations. Thomas's transportation solution involved acquiring an unmarked rental van through false identity documents that he had obtained through the same criminal networks that provided key duplication services. The vehicle was registered under an assumed name, paid for with cash, and equipped with storage compartments that could conceal large amounts of currency during transport operations. Storage facilities were established through rental of a private warehouse space in an industrial area where commercial activity would provide cover for unusual vehicle traffic and large cargo movements. The facility was leased under Thomas's false identity and equipped with security measures that would protect stored assets while preventing unauthorized access by potential criminal associates. The most sophisticated component involved establishing methods for eventually converting stolen currency into untraceable assets that could support permanent lifestyle changes without creating patterns that law enforcement agencies could detect and follow. Thomas's research into money laundering techniques was extensive and professional, involving consultation with specialists who could provide services worth millions in conversion fees. Financial preparation included systematic liquidation of Thomas's legitimate assets and establishment of offshore banking relationships that could receive and process substantial sums while maintaining confidentiality about beneficial ownership and transaction purposes. These arrangements were created through legal but sophisticated privacy services that operated in jurisdictions with limited cooperation with American law enforcement. By October 2020, Thomas had completed all technical, logistical, and financial preparation necessary for executing sophisticated theft of vault contents on a massive scale. His criminal infrastructure had been established through activities that appeared completely legitimate, making it invisible to security oversight until after his planned operations were completed. The psychological preparation was perhaps the most challenging aspect, requiring Thomas to overcome 15 years of professional conditioning and ethical constraints that had previously defined his identity and career. His transformation from trusted guardian to sophisticated criminal represented a fundamental change in character that had to remain completely hidden while he maintained perfect professional performance. The weeks preceding Thomas's planned vault heist were marked by intensified preparation activities, disguised as routine professional responsibilities and personal business that wouldn't attract suspicion from coworkers or management oversight. His criminal planning had reached the point where every detail was finalized and only execution remained. Thomas's manipulation of shift schedules had created optimal conditions for his criminal operation, with junior security personnel convinced that his willingness to work unpopular overnight hours represented generous mentorship rather than criminal opportunity creation. His reputation for reliability made these schedule changes appear routine rather than suspicious. The technical aspects of his plan had been tested extensively through legitimate access to vault systems during routine maintenance and emergency procedures. Thomas had confirmed that his duplicate keys functioned perfectly, that his understanding of security system vulnerabilities was accurate, and that his timing estimates for various criminal activities were realistic and achievable. His intelligence gathering had identified the specific target for his theft operation: a regularly scheduled armored transport that would contain approximately $30 million in processed casino earnings. The transport occurred during predictable timing windows when Thomas's oversight responsibilities would provide perfect cover for criminal activities. The psychological component involved final preparation for permanently abandoning his legitimate identity and career in favor of criminal success that would require complete lifestyle transformation. Thomas had spent months conditioning himself for this transition while maintaining the professional behavior that made his criminal activities possible. His legitimate residence had been systematically prepared for abandonment, with personal belongings gradually removed and important documents either destroyed or converted to portable forms that could support his planned disappearance. The process was so gradual that even neighbors wouldn't notice obvious changes until after Thomas had vanished. Financial accounts had been systematically closed or converted to forms that wouldn't create investigative leads, while new banking relationships established under false identities were prepared to receive and process the proceeds from his criminal activities. Thomas's financial preparation had been as sophisticated as his criminal planning. The van and warehouse that would support his criminal operations had been tested and equipped with everything necessary for successful theft and temporary storage of nearly $30 million in cash. His transportation routes had been planned to avoid surveillance cameras and law enforcement patrol patterns that might interfere with his escape. Communication preparations included establishment of encrypted methods for coordinating with the criminal services that would assist in converting stolen cash to untraceable assets, and backup plans for various contingencies that might arise during or after his criminal operations. Thomas's final preparations included detailed study of the specific security personnel who would be present during his planned theft operation, their behavioral patterns, and the psychological approaches that would be most effective for maintaining their cooperation without arousing suspicion about his true intentions. The weekend before his planned operation, Thomas conducted final tests of all technical systems, confirmed availability of criminal support services, and completed psychological preparation for betraying the trust of colleagues and employers who had depended on his integrity for 15 years. By October 14, 2020, Thomas Mitchell was ready to transform from trusted security guardian to master criminal, with every aspect of his plan tested, confirmed, and prepared for execution that would either provide permanent financial freedom or result in criminal prosecution that would destroy everything he had built over 15 years of exemplary service. October 15, 2020 began as another routine overnight shift at the MGM Grand, with Thomas arriving for work at his usual time while maintaining the professional demeanor that had characterized 15 years of exemplary security service. Nothing in his behavior suggested that within hours he would execute one of the most sophisticated internal thefts in casino history. The evening's casino operations had generated substantial cash flow that would require processing and secure storage through the overnight hours, creating exactly the conditions that Thomas had been monitoring for months while developing his criminal plan. His intelligence gathering had confirmed that this particular night would provide optimal opportunities for large-scale theft operations. Thomas's manipulation of shift schedules had achieved the desired result. He would be supervising vault operations with minimal oversight from senior management, while working alongside junior personnel who trusted his judgment completely and would be unlikely to question his decisions or actions during critical periods. At 11:47 p.m., Thomas began implementing the preliminary phases of his criminal operation by conducting routine security checks that allowed him to confirm the location and estimated value of the armored transport contents that would be his target. His legitimate responsibilities provided perfect cover for criminal reconnaissance activities. The armored bags awaiting transport contained approximately $28.6 million in processed casino earnings, representing one of the largest concentrations of portable wealth that Thomas had observed during his months of criminal planning. The amount exceeded his expectations and confirmed that this operation would provide sufficient proceeds to fund permanent disappearance and lifestyle transformation. Thomas's technical preparation proved flawless as he initiated the security system manipulations that would provide cover for his criminal activities. His duplicate supervisory key functioned perfectly, his understanding of system vulnerabilities was accurate, and his timing estimates aligned precisely with actual operational conditions. At 12:23 a.m., Thomas began the psychological manipulation of junior security personnel that would provide alibis and prevent interference with his criminal activities. His approach was subtle and professional, involving routine reassignment of responsibilities that appeared to be normal operational adjustments rather than criminal preparation. The critical moment arrived at 1:15 a.m. when Thomas found himself temporarily alone with the armored bags during a carefully orchestrated gap in supervision that he had created through months of patient manipulation of personnel schedules and operational procedures. His 15 years of trust and authority made this moment possible. Working with practiced efficiency developed through extensive planning and mental rehearsal, Thomas accessed the secured storage area using his legitimate and duplicate keys while maintaining awareness of security camera coverage and the timing of automatic system resets that would provide brief windows of reduced surveillance. The transfer of $28.6 million from secured storage to his concealed transport cart took less than 8 minutes but required precise coordination of multiple technical and physical activities while maintaining complete operational security. Thomas's months of preparation enabled flawless execution under extreme pressure. His legitimate security responsibilities provided perfect cover for moving the transport cart through restricted corridors toward the loading dock area, where his rental van waited for final transfer of stolen assets. To any observer, Thomas appeared to be conducting routine security operations rather than committing massive theft. The underground loading dock provided optimal conditions for transferring stolen cash from the transport cart to pre-prepared storage containers within his rental van. The location was isolated, poorly monitored by security cameras, and accessed only by authorized personnel who wouldn't question Thomas's presence or activities. By 1:47 a.m., Thomas had successfully loaded $28.6 million into his rental van and was preparing to depart MGM Grand property through service exits that his security position provided legitimate access to. His criminal operation had been completed without triggering any security alerts or attracting attention from personnel who might interfere with his escape. The final phase involved driving calmly through Las Vegas streets toward his warehouse storage facility while maintaining normal traffic patterns that wouldn't attract law enforcement attention. Thomas's route planning had avoided surveillance cameras in patrol areas that might document his movements or create investigative leads. At 2:31 a.m., Thomas arrived at his warehouse facility and began transferring stolen cash to secure storage areas where it could be concealed while he completed his planned disappearance and initiated money laundering operations that would convert the currency to untraceable assets. By 3:15 a.m., Thomas Mitchell had successfully completed one of the largest internal thefts in American casino history while maintaining perfect operational security and leaving no evidence of criminal activity beyond the eventual discovery that nearly $30 million had simply vanished from supposedly impregnable vault storage. Thomas's disappearance was executed with the same meticulous planning that had characterized his vault theft, demonstrating criminal sophistication that extended beyond the actual crime to include comprehensive escape procedures designed to make recovery of stolen assets and apprehension of the perpetrator virtually impossible. His departure from Las Vegas began immediately after securing the stolen cash in his warehouse facility, with Thomas driving directly to a pre-positioned vehicle that would carry him away from Nevada through routes calculated to minimize surveillance, detection, and law enforcement interdiction. The timing was critical because casino personnel would eventually discover the theft and trigger intensive investigation procedures. Thomas's transportation plan involved multiple vehicle changes and route modifications designed to create confusion about his direction of travel while providing maximum time advantage before investigative resources could be effectively deployed. His primary escape vehicle was completely separate from both his legitimate identity and the rental van used during criminal operations. The route planning had been developed over months of research into surveillance camera locations, law enforcement patrol patterns, and border crossing procedures that could affect his ability to reach destinations where American law enforcement authority was limited or where cooperative agreements might not facilitate easy extradition. Thomas's destination was a carefully selected location in Central America, where substantial cash resources could purchase both security and official cooperation necessary for establishing new identity and permanent residence. His research had identified specific countries and regions where American fugitives with sufficient financial resources could effectively disappear from law enforcement attention. The stolen $28.6 million required careful management during extended travel and eventual conversion to forms that could support long-term residence without creating traceable patterns that might attract investigative attention. Thomas's preparation had included establishing relationships with criminal service providers who specialized in such conversions. His legitimate identity was systematically eliminated through destruction of documents, closure of accounts, and abandonment of personal property that might provide investigative leads about his plans or destinations. The process had been so thorough that even detailed forensic investigation would find minimal evidence of his advanced preparation or intended activities. By dawn on October 16th, Thomas was hundreds of miles from Las Vegas, while casino personnel were just beginning to discover that nearly $30 million had vanished from vault storage. His head start was measured in hours that would prove crucial for successful escape before law enforcement agencies could coordinate pursuit efforts. Thomas's apartment was found completely abandoned, but showed no signs of hasty departure or obvious criminal preparation. Personal belongings had been gradually removed over preceding weeks, lease payments were current, and utilities remained active, suggesting normal residence rather than planned abandonment. The rental van used during criminal operations was found abandoned in a desert location outside Las Vegas, thoroughly cleaned of fingerprints and any evidence of its cargo or the identity of its operator. The vehicle's location provided no meaningful clues about subsequent transportation arrangements or intended destinations. Financial investigation revealed that Thomas had systematically liquidated legitimate assets and closed banking accounts over preceding months, converting everything to cash forms that could support extended travel without creating electronic trails that law enforcement agencies could trace and follow. His preparation had included obtaining false identity documents through criminal networks that specialized in providing untraceable credentials for individuals who needed to disappear permanently from their previous lives. The quality of these documents was sufficient to support international travel and establishment of new identity in foreign jurisdictions. Border surveillance systems were activated throughout the southwestern United States and Mexico, but Thomas's advanced planning and false identity documents allowed him to cross international boundaries before these systems could be effectively implemented or coordinated with foreign law enforcement agencies. Intelligence analysis suggested that Thomas had continued into Central America within days of the theft, using established criminal networks and the financial resources provided by his stolen millions to secure transportation, accommodation, and official cooperation necessary for permanent residence under an assumed identity. The sophistication of Thomas's escape planning indicated criminal capabilities that extended far beyond the vault theft itself, suggesting either extensive criminal education or cooperation with professional criminal organizations that specialized in providing comprehensive services for major crime proceeds. The discovery that $28.6 million had vanished from the MGM Grand's supposedly secure vault triggered immediate escalation to federal law enforcement and launched one of the most intensive criminal investigations in Las Vegas. Casino history, with resources deployed on a scale typically reserved for terrorism or organized crime cases. FBI agents arrived at the casino within hours of the theft discovery and immediately began comprehensive analysis of vault security procedures, employee backgrounds, and the sophisticated techniques that would be required for such massive theft to occur without triggering multiple layers of security alerts and detection systems. The investigation quickly identified Thomas Mitchell as the primary suspect when analysis of security logs, personnel schedules, and access records revealed that he was the only individual with both the authority and opportunity necessary for accessing secured vault contents during the critical time period when the theft must have occurred. Thomas's 15-year employment record initially complicated the investigation because his perfect performance history and complete lack of suspicious behavior made his criminal involvement seem unlikely, despite overwhelming circumstantial evidence. His reputation for integrity and reliability had been so consistent that investigators initially sought alternative explanations. But detailed analysis of security camera footage, electronic access logs, and the sophisticated methods required for circumventing vault security systems ultimately confirmed that only someone with Thomas's knowledge, access, and authority could have executed such complex criminal operations without detection. His disappearance following the theft provided final confirmation of his criminal involvement while eliminating any possibility of recovering stolen assets through cooperation with law enforcement agencies. The timing and completeness of his vanishing act demonstrated advanced planning that suggested criminal sophistication exceeding typical employee theft cases. Computer forensic investigation found that Thomas had systematically eliminated electronic traces of his activities, closed online accounts, and destroyed digital communications in ways that suggested understanding of law enforcement investigation techniques and evidence collection procedures. The investigation expanded rapidly to include multiple states and federal agencies as the scale of Thomas's theft and the sophistication of his escape planning became apparent. Resources were deployed for international cooperation efforts as intelligence suggested that Thomas might have fled to foreign countries with limited law enforcement cooperation agreements. Financial investigation teams began comprehensive analysis of Thomas's legitimate assets, banking relationships, and spending patterns to identify any evidence of criminal preparation or advanced planning that might provide leads about his escape. Routes or intended destinations? The casino industry implemented immediate security reviews following Thomas's theft, recognizing that traditional assumptions about employee trustworthiness were inadequate for protecting against sophisticated internal threats who possessed intimate knowledge of security vulnerabilities and operational procedures. Intelligence gathered from criminal networks and money laundering specialists suggested that converting $28.6 million in stolen cash would require extensive criminal infrastructure and professional services that could indicate Thomas's current location or future activities. International law enforcement cooperation included Interpol alerts, border surveillance notifications, and financial monitoring systems designed to detect any activity associated with Thomas or the stolen assets in countries throughout Central and South America where American fugitives with substantial resources commonly sought sanctuary. Private investigators hired by casino insurance companies began their own search efforts using resources and methods unavailable to government agencies, including human intelligence networks, financial surveillance capabilities, and international contacts that could provide information about Thomas's potential whereabouts or activities. The rewards offered for information leading to Thomas's capture eventually reached $2 million, reflecting both the scale of his theft and the frustration that law enforcement agencies experienced in their unsuccessful efforts to locate him, despite comprehensive domestic and international investigation efforts. But after months of intensive investigation involving dozens of agencies and hundreds of personnel, Thomas Mitchell had successfully vanished along with $28.6 million in stolen casino vault contents. His sophisticated criminal planning and escape execution had defeated some of the most advanced law enforcement capabilities in the world. The case remained active with periodic investigation of reported sightings and potential leads, but Thomas had achieved something remarkable in the modern era of comprehensive surveillance and international law enforcement cooperation. Complete disappearance with sufficient stolen wealth to remain hidden indefinitely if he maintained appropriate operational security. More than 3 years after Thomas Mitchell orchestrated the theft of $28.6 million from the MGM Grand's vault and vanished without trace, he remains one of the most successful fugitives in American criminal history, while law enforcement agencies continue searching for any evidence of his location or activities. His criminal success represented the convergence of multiple factors that made detection and apprehension extraordinarily difficult, despite the deployment of massive investigative resources. Thomas's 15 years of security experience had provided intimate knowledge of law enforcement techniques, surveillance methods, and the specific vulnerabilities that could be exploited by someone with appropriate preparation and resources. The sophistication of Thomas's disappearance suggested criminal capabilities that exceeded what investigators typically associated with casino security personnel, indicating either extensive self-education in criminal techniques or cooperation with professional criminal organizations that specialized in providing comprehensive services for major crime proceeds. Intelligence analysis conducted by federal agencies revealed that Thomas had researched multiple aspects of successful fugitive operations, including identity document forgery, international travel under assumed names, money laundering techniques, and the establishment of permanent residence in countries with limited law enforcement cooperation with the United States. His financial preparation had been as sophisticated as his criminal planning, with systematic conversion of legitimate assets to portable forms and establishment of offshore banking relationships that could receive and process substantial sums while maintaining confidentiality about beneficial ownership and transaction purposes. The $28.6 million in stolen cash provided resources sufficient to purchase virtually any service or cooperation necessary for permanent disappearance, including high-quality false identity documents, official corruption in foreign countries, and professional criminal services that could make detection virtually impossible. Periodic reported sightings of Thomas in various Central American countries generated intensive investigation efforts, but none proved credible upon detailed examination. The combination of substantial financial resources, sophisticated false identity documentation, and advanced planning had created conditions where positive identification would be extremely difficult without physical apprehension. The case had become a landmark study in sophisticated employee criminal planning, demonstrating how trusted personnel with extensive institutional knowledge could exploit security vulnerabilities in organizational trust to commit crimes that exceeded the capabilities of external criminal organizations. Thomas Mitchell had spent 15 years building the reputation and access necessary for one perfect crime that would provide permanent escape from his previous life. His patience, planning, and complete betrayal of institutional trust had achieved something that professional criminals with greater resources and experience had rarely accomplished: complete disappearance with sufficient wealth to remain hidden indefinitely. Whether Thomas lives comfortably somewhere in Central America with his stolen millions, or eventually faced consequences that will never be publicly known, remains one of the most compelling mysteries in modern American crime. The trusted guardian who had protected millions for 15 years had ultimately proven that sometimes the greatest threats come from within the very systems designed to provide security. His successful theft and escape had fundamentally altered how the casino industry approached internal security, but Thomas Mitchell had already vanished into the vast spaces where $28.6 million can purchase perfect invisibility from even the most sophisticated law enforcement efforts in the world.